55 Robert Schumann Lane, situated in the city of North in western France, was home to the Dupont de Ligonnès family, a mother, a dad, their 4 kids, and 2 dark Labradors. Apparently, they have all the earmarks of being a totally ordinary upper working class family. They came from a decent foundation and were effectively engaged with the nearby local area. They weren't the kind of individuals to engage in any kind of unlawful exercises, nor did they violate the law. In April 2011 anyway, that all changed when one of the most over-the-top horrendous wrongdoings ever to have been carried out in France occurred 55 Robert Schumann Street, which was once a family home, embraced a troubling moniker, the place of dread. Xavier Pierre-Marie Dupont de Ligonnès, the patriarch of the family, was a 50-year-old count who was a relative of French blue bloods. He was a sales rep who had encountered some outcome in his own business tries. Xavier's 48-year-old spouse, Agnès Odonger, who he initially met in the 1980s, worked at a Catholic school and was known to be exceptionally strict, going to Mass each Sunday and running a book of scriptures concentrate on bunch. Xavier and Agnès had a brief relationship during the 80s, which suddenly finished when Xavier chose to go all over the planet after getting back to his old neighborhood of Versailles. A year after the fact, Xavier found Agnès pregnant by one more man with her most memorable child, Arthur, regardless of it being especially disapproved of by the Catholic local area. At the time, Xavier decided to wed Agnès and consented to raise Arthur as his own youngster. The couple wedded in 1991, and between them they had 3 additional youngsters, with Arthur Nicolas being the oldest. He was 20 years of age and working at a pizza joint at that point, and was going to a confidential Catholic school where he was considering IT. Their second child, Thomas, was 18 years of age and was concentrating on musicology, with the couple's just girl, 16-year-old Anne, being a grade a year 11 understudy at a confidential Catholic secondary school. She likewise invested a portion of her energy demonstrating for mail request inventories. The most youthful of the family, 13-year-old Benoit, likewise went to similar secondary school as his sister Anne, and he, when all is said and done, similar to his sibling Thomas, had a gigantic enthusiasm for music, particularly the drums. Life carried on as would be expected, with the 2 guardians working their separate positions and their youngsters going to their different instructive establishments. Nothing seemed, by all accounts, to be strange. That was until the evening of the 11th of April 2011. Neighbors started to become worried for the Dupont Association's family as their home stood shockingly quiet. The house was strangely completely covered up, something which was exceptionally strange in any event. When the family went on vacation, they never shut the window shades. A neighbor likewise saw a note taped to the front entryway requesting that the mail transporter not convey any more mail to the property. This in itself was exceptionally abnormal, and following 2 days of no development inside the property, concerned neighbors reached specialists who thusly showed up at the home to see what was happening. Upon their landing in the home on the 13th of April, nearby police found the front entryway locked, and no one addressed the entryway. Subsequently, a locksmith was reached and changed the locks. After entering, nothing seemed to have been awkward, other than the beds having been all stripped, and a portion of the storerooms were open. Police reasoned that the family had gone out voluntarily, hence there was compelling reason need to open a conventional examination. Everything except one of the family vehicles, a Citroën C5, were left in their typical spots. What was odd, anyway, was that the Citroën was unreasonably little to work with 2 grown-ups, 4 kids, and 2 Labradors. It was absolutely impossible that they generally went in a similar vehicle. In the days that followed, the family's weird vanishing various composed letters were gotten by companions and family members of the family, supposedly from Xavier and Agnès, making sense of their non-attendance. However, what was composed really perplexed everybody. The 8-page-long letters guaranteed that Xavier was a government operative for the D in the U.S. What's more, that the whole family would be away for a couple of years as Xavier's in secret status had been uncovered. Subsequently, he and his family needed to escape the country, as they would have possibly been left in peril had they stayed in France. The letters likewise discussed changing personalities under an observer security program and repeated that they presumably wouldn't have any contact with their more distant family and companions by any means soon. Besides, Xavier guaranteed that both dark Labradors who were loved by their kids have been set in another home together. The letter likewise point by point various undertakings for a few relatives and companions to complete basically how to manage their issues and property. Xavier likewise requested that every beneficiary let individuals know that the family had moved to Australia following a task move, and to keep everything they had been said to in this letter. Rigorously secret letters of a comparative sort were shipped off Anne and Benoit School as well as Angus's working environment and the landowners of both Tama and Arter's school convenience. At first, the people who were sent these letters didn't respect it. Xavier was a capricious individual working for the D truly appeared to be plausible, regardless of how outlandish it sounded, and no one truly questioned it. By then, other than Angus's family, they were left totally astounded by the letter, and thusly sent it to the lead prosecutor in Nantes. Angus's family tracked down. It passed bizarre for the family to have absolutely got up and left France without saying anything. They recently realized something was amiss on April the 15th, 2011, 4 days after the neighbors at first reached specialists. With their interest, police returned 255 Robert Schumann Avenue to direct further inquiries of the property. During their pursuit, they found that large numbers of the photograph outlines inside the house had been discharged of their photos. Yet, other than that, nothing dubious was viewed as inside the home. 3 further quests occurred on the 18th, 19th, and 20th of April, after Annis's friends and family demanded that something was off base. A 6th hunt of the property was led on the 21st of April. That very day, a public allure was sent off, and really at that time police find something which chilled them deep down. While researching the outside of the property, police revealed various taped canister packs covered in a grave under the patio. After examining the grisly find, they found 4 arrangements of human remaining parts and 2 arrangements of creature bones. They had tracked down the groups of Annis Dupont, Ligonnès, and 3 of her 4 youngsters, Arter, Anne, and Benoit. The family's 2 dark Labrador retrievers were likewise covered in a similar grave. 18-year-old Tama was covered in a different grave nearby, with specialists solidly accepting that Thomas was killed after his mom and kin. Covered close by each body was a strict thing. For example, a candle or cross, which appeared to propose some kind of strict internment. Also, there was obviously a profound association between the people in question and the culprit, as they had plainly maintained that their casualties should have strict entombment. Police scoured the house and encompassing region searching for the final relative Xavier. Anyway, he was mysteriously gone from that second on. Xavier Dupont de Ligonnès was the great suspect in his family's homicide. A global warrant was given for the outlaw's capture on the 10th of May 2011. A warrant which is as yet dynamic today. The media named the Schumann Street property as the place of fear and the place of frightfulness. However, as a media storm resulted, loved ones of Xavier's were left confounded. They couldn't understand how a common family man might have carried out such a deplorable wrongdoing. He invested quite a bit of his energy helping other people, and it was clear that he revered his family regardless of anything else. The family name was critical to him. So how could he murder his own ancestry? Xavier had likewise never been in any issue with the law, nor did he have any criminal associations. Many attempted to accept that Xavier might have killed and covered his family in the patio of their home, including his mom and sister. As per them, Xavier had. Back gives that caused him a great deal of trouble, where the bodies were covered in an opening under the porch gallery. It was exceptionally wicked good on the off chance that Xavier had endeavored to cover them there. it would have caused him an unreasonable measure of torment. His mom and sister accepted that the bodies in the lawn probably won't have even been the Dupont de Ligonnès family, as they claimed that the portrayals of each body was wrong, blaming a careless dissection. Was there some kind of conceal? Did the family escape the nation and phony their own demises? It appears to be far-fetched examinations were led on the Dupont de Ligonnès family, and it was found that hints of dosing pills were tracked down in each of the 4 kids' frameworks. Anus was not controlled the medication, likely on the grounds that she utilized a rest apnea machine during the night anyway. The machine was turned off around the 3rd of April. She was no doubt the first of the family to kick the bucket, the examination reports. Likewise uncovered nerve-wracking insights regarding how every individual from the family was shot, with 2 slugs to the head. Utilizing a .22 long rifle, this careful weapon had been a family treasure which had been passed down to Xavier from his dad, Super, only 3 weeks before the family slaughter in Walk 2011. It was at first hypothesized that every one of the casualties were shot and killed in their own beds. Anyway, there was no hint of any blood in the rooms, nor were there any hints of blood whatsoever. All through the family home, significantly more amazingly scientific groups found no hint of any DNA, fingerprints, or any strands of any sort on the remaining parts, or the dark sacks that were found in the entombment destinations under the patio gallery. There was positively no proof to show that Xavier Dupont de Ligonnès was engaged with the homicide of his family, nor was there any proof to demonstrate a unidentified attacker was liable for the wrongdoing. Specialists had no leads at all and kept on reaching stopping points in their examinations. In this manner, they needed to glance back at the existences of the actual family, and what they found was past captivating, apparently seemed to have the ideal work and everyday life, except not everything was what it was. By all accounts, Xavier was not an effective finance manager, as he had professed to be, yet rather a bombed one in the mid-2000s. The family momentarily moved to Florida, where Xavier started his American dream undertakings, expecting to assist outsiders with legitimate cycles and administrator in the U.S. However, tragically, it didn't work out as well as he had trusted. Xavier had put all of his cash in his business, which came about in the Dupont de Ligonnès family, getting back to France with very little cash to their name. As the years went by, Xavier's funds descending spiraled significantly more. He professed to claim various other extremely effective organizations, and he voyaged all over France for business purposes. Anyway, these organizations were likewise draining cash. Xavier realized that his business would ultimately become penniless, and thus he would be compelled to forsake all that he held dear, including his home. The way that he was of French respectability and had a count title, for him to lose everything would have been horrendous for his standing, also his family's standing. Xavier was an exceptionally pleased individual, and to own up to his family that he was a disappointment was not something he would have eagerly needed to. Would he probably preferred to shame the Dupont de Ligonnès name? His dad Uber was forlorn, sick, and basically bankrupt when he kicked the bucket in mid-2011. What's more, Xavier probably didn't have any desire to emulate his dad's example. Following the passing of his dad, Xavier was entrusted with purging Uber's condo, during which Xavier went looking for his dad's Count seal ring, which was accepted to be of critical worth. However, he didn't find anything of worth. The effort was as of now that Xavier came into ownership of his dad's .22 long rifle, which he bought a permit for toward the beginning of February. Xavier had no past interest or involvement in any kind of weapons. However, following his dad's destruction, he routinely went to the shooting range. In some cases, even with Thomas and Benoit, he had even asked his teacher in regards to silencers, and in the long run bought one on the 12th of Walk, alongside rifle shots. A receipt for a do-it-yourself store situated more than 200 miles away was found inside the family home on the 19th of April, showing acquisition of dark sacks and glue plastic clearing chunks, which were all used to disguise the bodies. Toward the beginning of April, Xavier likewise purchased concrete, a digging tool, an opening, and 4 10-kilogram packs of lime. As per report, Sunday, the 3rd of April 2011, was the last time that the whole Dupont de Ligonnès family were seen alive. That night, the 2 guardians, Xavier and Agnes, and 3 of their kids went out for supper at a neighborhood eatery prior to going to the film. And getting back at around 10:37 p.m., Xavier called his sister, Christine, yet there was no response. He left a message and enlightened her concerning the calf and film excursion and that he was going to take care of his children. He finished the message with something rather chilling: "See you soon, perhaps." The next day, on Monday, April 4th, companions of both 16-year-old Anne and 13-year-old Benoit became concerned when neither turned up for school that day. They were obviously off debilitated anyway. Rather abnormally, neither Anne or Benoit addressed any messages, online messages, or calls from their companions. On the 5th of April, observers saw Xavier and his 18-year-old child Thomas eating at a neighborhood eatery. However, servers noticed that there was little discussion among them, and they likewise noticed that Thomas started to feel sick towards the finish of the feast. He messaged a companion late that evening. Anyway, he was at no point ever heard from. In the future, it is expressed in certain sources that bailiffs turned up at the home prior that very day searching for €20. However, during that very week, neighbors announced hearing the 2 family Labradors yelping for 2 continuous evenings anyway. Their barks before long stopped. The next day, the 6th of April, Arthur's better half thumped on the entryway as she was searching for him. However, no one replied, and there were no typical barks from the canines. It was estimated that Agnes, Arthur, Anne, and Benoit were killed during the evening of Sunday, April 3rd, going into Monday, April 4th. However, a few observers professed to have seen Agnes perfectly healthy right up to the 7th of April prior. On the 3rd of April, Thomas had gotten back to college. Anyway, on the 5th, Xavier reached Thomas and advised him to get back as his mom had been in a bike mishap and was in a state of unconsciousness in clinic. Thomas got back soon thereafter, where he was taken to a nearby eatery for supper, then unwittingly managed dosing pills and killed. The specific timetable of occasions has never been completely settled. However, this is the very thing that we really do know: the rent on the family home had been ended. The family's all ledgers were shut. The instruction foundations each of the 4 kids went to got last installment settlements. Agnes's manager was educated. She was sick with gastroenteritis and was likewise informed that she was moving to Australia. The house was vacant. The next day, April 6th, Xavier was spotted external the home by neighbors alone, and on the 7th he was seen moving dark container sacks into the boot of his metallic blue Citroën 5. He then spent a whole week in the house prior to leaving Nantes on April the 10th. In his vehicle traveling southward, a speed camera got his vehicle among Nantes and La Rochelle, and his MasterCard had been involved that day at an eatery and lodging in La Rochelle itself. CTV likewise got him at a money point. However, it created the impression that Xavier wasn't attempting to conceal the reality. No work was made to disguise his personality, nor his computerized impression. Many accepted that these bizarre activities were of a going man to end his own life. Numerous family slaughters end the same way, with the culprit in the vast majority of cases ending it all that 1 out of 10 wind up going on the run. The following day, Xavier left and proceeded with southwest through Toulouse Backstreet and La Saint-Sumer prior to showing up in Roquebrune Arjun. On April the 14th, a spot he knew very well, he had remained at various lodgings under the moniker of Shrub 8 days after the fact. On the 22 end of April, in the wake of directing different pursuits the nation over, French specialists found the missing metallic blue Citroën C5, which had a place with Xavier in the little parking garage of Lidet. Lee Recipe 1 in Rockefeller-sur-Surgeon in South France. Curiously to note, in the composed letters to loved ones, Xavier had guaranteed that he had given the C5 to the dad of one of Arthur's companions for vehicle parts, this also obviously being false detective uncovered, that Xavier remained at the formal U lodging the evening of April 14th, and film showed Xavier crossing at the parking area of the inn, conveying a long, dark pack at the lower part of the sack. A long article is noticed, and it was accepted to be the rifle that killed the Dupont de Ligonnès family. Xavier then chillingly gazed directly into the CTV camera, as though he was expressing farewell prior to going on his way following this revelation. Specialists took to the close-by wild to search for Xavier, practically 100% sure that he had ended his own life, and they were searching for a body. However, nothing was found to show that this was the situation. He had just disappeared like a phantom, at absolutely no point ever to be seen or heard from in the future. Did Xavier end it all? Or did he go on the run, tricking examiners into thinking he had committed suicide to get himself additional opportunity to get away? Many accept that Xavier, some way or another, disappeared to South America on a freight transport, perhaps to some place like Brazil or Argentina. He was multilingual, communicating in French, English, and Spanish, so he might actually be any place on the planet. Preceding his vanishing, Xavier had been in touch with a former sweetheart from Germany referred to just as Claudia. However, she has never been followed. A different line of request was that Xavier might have taken shelter at a cloister and one in Roquebrune. Sir Aja was struck in January 2018. This was after certain priests professed to have seen him there. However, subsequent to examining further, police decided it to be an instance of mixed-up way of life, as the priest being referred to was found. However, he looked similar to the missing criminal. Since 2011, more than 900 hints have been called into specialists, and various leads have been handled, yet, tragically, every lead up to this point has been vain. Different pursuits have been directed all through France, in any semblance of untamed water, and in old mines without any outcomes. Various human remaining parts that have been found since 2011 in France have been tried through DNA. However, no John Doe has been found that has matched Xavier Dupont de Ligonnès. It was accounted for in one source that in July of 2015, a writer was sent a photo of Arthur and Benoit, with the words "I'm as yet alive" composed on the back. Tragically, it is basically impossible for examiners to be aware without a doubt whether the engraving was composed by Xavier. In October of 2019, a man was captured at Glasgow Air Terminal in Scotland. After a programming interface alert was hailed up, with a taken French visa, the person being referred to changed their flight last moment from Saturday the 12th to Friday the 11th. Significance: French specialists botched the opportunity to block the man at Paris Charles de Gaulle Air Terminal, where they left. The traveler was accepted to conceivably be Xavier Dupont de Ligonnès, and the man was then caught by Scottish police. After arriving in Glasgow, fingerprints were taken of the person, as was DNA anyway. The man was not Xavier and was delivered without charge. His visa was taken in 2014, however, he had figured out how to get a substitution, which he had been utilizing. 11 years have passed. We actually don't have any idea what occurred right then and there in April 2011. Assuming Xavier was without a doubt the man liable for killing his whole family, there are such countless inquiries that need response to right off the bat. Why? For what reason did he kill his significant other and 4 kids while they rested in their beds? Was it since he was just excessively embarrassed about his monetary status and dreaded his standing and his family's name could be demolished? It doesn't appear to be an undeniable thought process in murder, yet the sky is the limit. Also, what changed, what set off Xavier into carrying out merciless homicide? His youngsters had their whole lives in front of them, and in a moment he removed that from them, and afterward brings up the issue: how did Xavier figure out how to pull off killing his family, assuming it was for sure him who carried out the wrongdoing? How could he figure out how to cover them in the terrace without raising any doubts? What did he do during the 7 days he stayed at home? Prior to traveling south, did he invest that energy? Cleaning the home in a bid to dispose of proof. He had supposedly reached various lifelong companions in the weeks paving the way to his vanishing, where the homicides planned, determined, and thought out. Did Xavier have an assistant who assisted him with getting away from France? There are vast conceivable outcomes for this situation, yet the truth actually remains Xavier Dupont de Ligonnès stays an outlaw, with specialists hoping to address him concerning the homicide of his significant other and 4 youngsters. Angers Arthur Thomas Anne and Benoit's burial service was hung on April the 28th, following a sincere help at South Felice Church in Nantes. With more than 400 participants, they were completely incinerated, prior to being let go on April the 30th in Noir-sur-Quiet, where Anne's family started from. Her family were naturally shattered by their misfortune, despite everything battled to grapple with it. More than 10 years on all they need is answers, some conclusion for the leftover family. Furthermore, for a fair outcome to be given, honest lives so severely taken in the most incredibly shocking of conditions their experience on this planet, unfortunately cut off by somebody they generally believed, somebody who has kept on sidestepping catch. May the casualties of this terrible wrongdoing Arthur Thomas Anne and Benoit find happiness in the hereafter. Absolutely. If you enjoyed the introduction to Unfit Frame, feel free to hit the like button to show your support. Additionally, don't hesitate to leave a comment sharing your thoughts, suggestions, or any specific topics you'd love to see covered on the channel. Your engagement is valued and helps shape the content to better suit the interests of the Unfit Frame community. Thanks for being a part of the journey.